Welcome to LaunchPod, where we chat with innovators who are overcoming challenges, pushing boundaries, and collaborating to make space more accessible and sustainable for humanity, one launch at a time.
It's one small step for man.
Here's your host, Susan Wise.
Hi, and welcome to LaunchPod. I'm Susan Wise, and excited to have with us Stephanie Anderson, Payload Operations Lead at Mission Control Center. How you doing, Stephanie?
Good. How are you?
Very good, and excited to talk to you. You have a very interesting job, very important job at NASA.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I've been on the ISS program for over 10 years, and yeah, working in payload operations is definitely a rewarding experience.
Well, LaunchPod is all about space science and innovation. So we're kind of wondering, what are you working on right now to further the space industry?
Yeah, so right now what I'm doing is I'm supporting all of the NASA sponsored payload facilities on board the space station. So what that means is making sure that these facilities that the astronauts use while they're on the space station function properly, and when they do come across, some kind of malfunction or something, then we are there to help them diagnose the problem and get it fixed quickly so that science can resume. Because one of the most important things about the space station is all the science that they're able to do.
And you need everything in tip-top shape and perfect. You can't really make any
Absolutely.
mistakes.
Right, right. And safety is, of course, our number one concern. So, making sure that the crew is safe and that we're able to get all of our science objectives done is our number one goal.
Have you had maybe an aha moment or like a breakthrough or just something where, yes, that was it, a moment in time where that happened?
Yeah, when you work in a situation where you're diagnosing problems and you're trying to come up with these solutions, sometimes you are in the situation where you think it's a really complex problem and you're racking your brain about what could possibly be, the solution to this problem. Sometimes the answer is just right in front of you. And, I think it's really important to take a break and to step back and to ask, your peers for some help and some insight, because sometimes the answer can be standing right in front of you and you're just blind to it because you're so deep down into the problem. We're all being engineers, we like to know every little piece of data. We like to know everything about everything. And sometimes it can get overwhelming, for our brains if we're just like focused too much on one thing. And so I definitely leaning on our peers, is a really big thing that we like to do. And, just having that moment was like, oh my gosh, the solution was in front of me the whole time. I just needed to take a step back, and really think about the problem from a bigger picture. So that happens a lot in our work.
It's good to have yourself surrounded by really smart people, like-minded people.
Hmm.
With LaunchPod, it's, space science and innovation. It's trying to bring people together, scientists together to share that knowledge and like be your support and be that person you can bounce ideas off of, or if you have a problem or collaborate with.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of networking. I go to a lot of conferences and I try to put myself in situations where I'm doing lots of training and I'm exposing myself to people from all different fields around at NASA so that I can have, that long list of, networking people that if I have a problem that I think is specific to a certain person, I can just, email them and say, hey, I have this problem. Do you think you can give me some insight? So yeah, we definitely lean on each other a lot over at NASA.
Sharing is important.
It is. Yeah. We'll share the problems and we share the wins. So
There you go. Absolutely. So speaking of problems and wins, what has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I think my biggest challenge, working in real-time operations, we're talking on these headsets with our teams real time and mission control, and we have to sometimes give quick answers. The crew members are doing an activity and they have a question or they've come across something that's not expected. And we get asked these questions like, hey, what do they need to do? Answer us, we need an answer now, because the crew's up there doing it right now. And I think a huge part of my getting into this part of my career was just getting that confidence to say, okay, I know the answer. I'm going to speak up and I'm going to say what the answer is and not dwelling too long and say, oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe this isn't the right answer. Or maybe, I'm thinking about this incorrectly. And just having that confidence to be able to speak up when you have that gut feeling, when you think, the answer, not second guessing yourself. Obviously it's not natural. It takes a lot of training because, we do need to know everything about these facilities upwards and backwards, in order to make those kinds of decisions when we're on console. but having that confidence to be able to really do that real time and in the, the time span that the crew needs us to, that was a huge hurdle for me to be able to gain that confidence. And it's something that you need in order to be successful, in this kind of job.
And that confidence, it's going to grow with experience and time
Absolutely.
and putting in the work, putting in the hours. So, well, let's back up a little bit. Did you
Mhm.
always know this is what you wanted to do?
I always knew from a very, very young age that I wanted to work at NASA. Now, did I know I wanted to work real time and mission control? That kind of evolved, over time. But I always knew that I wanted to be involved with NASA, either, from a science perspective as like a researcher or as an engineer. And so, the course of my career just kind of led me to this point. And I'm not sure I could ever leave real time operations. It's a really fun, energetic, high pace, kind of environment that I really thrive in. And like you said, it takes time to get comfortable in something like that. Our training for our positions, it's, a year or more to get certified, to be able to work console, to be able to do this job confidently. And even after that, you're still learning every day. I mean, I learn something new all the time, in my job. And I don't think it's possible to ever stop learning, in this position that we're in. And like you said, that confidence has to build over time. Because if you're overconfident in the beginning, that can actually be a bad thing. If you fake the confidence just to make yourself look good, that's never a good thing. So making sure you take your time and you get to know your system and you build that confidence, is really important.
Are we focused on going to the moon now? Is that your focus these days?
Yeah, it's kind of been thrown up in the air a little bit with the recent administration changes and all of the the budget constraints that we have now going in to this new fiscal year. And so it looks like, moon to Mars is going to be the main focus. I think going to the moon as a stepping stone was always NASA's plan to be able to build up that technology and perfect it. Going to the moon and having the moon as a base of operations to be able to then go to Mars. But I think there's, slowly becoming a bigger push to say, okay, we've been to the moon already. Let's go for the bigger thing and go to Mars. So personally, I think it's a good thing to go back to the moon and to establish that technology and to establish that base. There's tons of research that can still be done from the moon. And so but I am really looking forward to see what the future brings. And moon, Mars, it all just sounds so exciting. So hopefully I get to be a part of it.
I'm sure you will. What would be one piece of advice or maybe a resource that you would like to share with everyone?
Sure. So the one thing that I think has really helped me in my career is that I've never really stopped learning. I've always pushed myself to, like I mentioned before, to take every training opportunity that I have, to better myself as an engineer and as a team player. And then also I have, besides my bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering, I have two master's degrees and I'm working on my PhD right now. So I I'm not sure I'll ever be able to stop. My husband asked me, like, "What are you gonna do after you get your PhD?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe I'll get another one. I don't know."
When
I
do
I
you
just
breathe?
I don't. I have 4 kids too, and so I you see the gray hair is really, it's really prominent, but I just love learning and keeping your mind open to learning and just knowing that at any point in time you will never know everything. So why not continue to pursue knowledge, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
Wow, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. I didn't know you had
Oh,
4
thank
kids,
you.
you have a family, you're getting more education and everything you're doing, at Mission Control Center. Wow, I can't imagine your workload is you thrive on that kind of stuff, I think.
I do, and I think that's why I work well in this operations kind of environment for my job is that I kind of thrive in the chaos, and so when things hit the fan and everything is kind of blowing up in your face, you got to like internalize yourself and focus on the problem, and that helps me at home too. The way that I solve problems with my kids is very similar to the way I solve problems with, our team on console. And it's very applicable to different, things that you take with, mediation and problem solving. I try to talk that way with my kids. Like, okay, we have a problem. Let's not just freak out about it. Let's try and say, okay, what can we do to solve this problem? So, and I even hear my mom is actually here right now. One of my kids has a birthday this weekend, so and I hear her saying that to them too. It's like, okay. we have a problem. Let's
Let's
figure
work
out the
work the
solution.
problem,
Yes.
everybody,
Yes.
right?
Work the problem, right? Work the problem, because that's what they tell us on console, right, guys? We got a problem. Let's work the problem.
Right.
Let's set aside emotions and let's work the problem. So it's all
Well,
parts of our life, So
Stephanie, I feel a lot more confident knowing if there is a problem to be worked and that you are there at Mission Control Center, operating as payload operations lead. It gives me confidence, makes me feel good.
thank you. Our team is our we can't do anything without the members of our team. It's definitely not a one person endeavor. This is space station is huge and so many different systems and so many different people putting in so much effort. The team at NASA is just incredible. We're really just very blessed to have such hardworking and intelligent individuals on the space station program.
Well, Stephanie Anderson, thank you so much for joining us today on Launch
Sure.
Pod. We really appreciate it.
Oh no, thank you very much.
Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review and subscribe. And until next time, keep looking up. It's Launch Pod, Space Science and Innovation.
Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on social media. Stars Launch Pod, propelling us forward, one launch at a time.